All right, welcome everyone to April. I hope you really enjoyed Robotics Month last month. All of those sessions, just a little bit of housekeeping to start, all of those robotics sessions are now moved into the archives. So within the Clubhouse, there is in the navigation bar some archives that you can check out, and that goes right back to July of 2021. You can sort it in a number of ways, whether you're interested in technology or whether you just want to do some more STEM skill workshops like this one, where it's interactive skills session. Then you can sort the archives that way. But this month, we're back to cybersecurity, and we did some cybersecurity during the Summer Summit last year. So we again, in the archives, there's some already there. If you're like, yeah, cybersecurity is definitely something that I'm interested in doing as a career, definitely check out everything that is already in the Clubhouse while we build out this month. And I did want to quickly share the STEM Careers Unboxed, because we do have some new members that might not be familiar with how we do things around here. So let me just share this screen really fast here. I think you should be able to see that now. So this was sent out via email, but it's also in the Clubhouse on the main page in the lobby. So just ever so quickly, these STEM Career Unboxed guides get sent out every month. And they are still available on our website as well, the stemforgirls.ca. If you go under club members only, and then under this pink box here, and even view all to go back months and months, you can always check them out there. But then this is this month, and I just wanted to point out that anything that's underlined is a link. So during the months that we do send out physical mail, you'll receive the unboxed as a paper copy, but you still want to check it out online, because everything that is underlined are links. So you can see there is some post-secondary programs you can do here in the province. Cybrary is an online platform where you can do micro-credentials for cybersecurity. And then down at the bottom here, you've got the schedule for this month. We may have some more additions, but Robogals, who are here with us today, these two wonderful women, will be joining us again next week as well. And then we've got ICTC, which is one of our partner organizations, joining us the week of Easter. And starting on the 19th of April, for those of you who have been with us a while, we've always been doing Mondays. We are shifting to Tuesdays starting April 19th. After that, we're going to try out Tuesdays and see whether that works for more students. So hopefully that works for you. And then finally, I just also wanted to point out a specific link in the Unboxed here, because it is just stellar. So the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which is a federal government agency, did this amazing career guide for those interested in cybersecurity, and it's everything. So if we do pique your interest this month on all of the careers, these are where I got the statistics. Cybersecurity professionals are growing by 7% a year in Canada. There's 3.5 million vacant positions worldwide. And really, cybersecurity, if those jobs aren't remote, nothing is. And everything is remote these days. And super well paid as well. And just down through, it even lists out the different types of cybersecurity jobs, of course, what pathways to success they call them, whether you need a certificate, a college diploma, or bachelor's degree, what that might net you in terms of career. And then down further still gives you a bunch of different universities across Canada, what programs they offer, including CNA is listed under Newfoundland and Labrador. So I just wanted to share that. And with that, I'm going to do this early because I've been forgetting it lately, is our gamification. So again, for those of you new to us, gamification points are in the clubhouse. You enter this code, Digital Forensics, 4 points that then you can use. You earn your points to purchase items within the gamification shop. And if anyone's been noticing lately, they've been starting to be career titles instead of just interesting vocabulary. So I just wanted to say, to kind of describe this one for the first time. Digital forensic analysts work to retrieve, catalog, and safeguard digital data regarding criminal and cybercrime investigations. They preserve evidence to ensure admissibility in court, and they advise other investigators on the value and utility of other digital evidence they find. So that's your gamification code, and you get your second gamification code by asking a question in the chat box. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Holly and Sam for their presentation.
Awesome, thank you. Hi. All right, so yeah, we have a presentation to share. So Holly is going to share her screen for you. And hopefully everybody can see that now. All right, so hi everybody. Like she just said, we are from Robogals MUN chapter, which is a group at Memorial University. And today we're going to be taking you through a little lesson and an activity that we call Encryption Adventure.
So up here right now are some pictures from our previous activities. So Robogals is a student-led chapter at MUN, but it was actually started in Australia. So it's a worldwide organization. Here are some, we've done some workshops like this where we do video calls and talk about Robogals and talk about STEM-related fields. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, if you're not familiar with that acronym. And we also do different ones in schools across St. John's and hopefully across the island coming up. And we have some big events that we've had where we've done some different STEM activities. One was our summer STEM fair, which is in the top corner, and one was our Halloween event, which is in the bottom corner. The other pictures are from school events where we've done workshops on coding and different workshops with 3D modeling and building things with 3D modeling.
Yeah, so myself and Holly are actually both the co-presidents of the MUN chapter of Robogals. So you're special. We've brought out the presidents for today's session.
So we'll go over our role model introductions now.
All right, so hi everyone. Like I said, my name is Sam. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a process engineering student at MUN. And if you don't know what process engineering is, you might know what chemical engineering is, and it's pretty similar to that. So I really like chemistry. I'm also very passionate about diversity in STEM, which is a big reason why I got involved with Robogals. Obviously, science, technology, engineering, math, and engineering in particular is a very male-dominated field. But what we learn a lot in engineering is that projects are the most successful when you have a really diverse team working on them. And I think that also should include a diversity of gender. So that's what I'm passionate about with Robogals. Outside of school, I enjoy things like hiking, snowboarding, skiing, and reading. And my favorite part about engineering since my time here at MUN is that I've gotten to meet just so many other people who also really love STEM, and we get to talk about it, and I've made some great friends.
So hi everyone, my name is Holly. I use she, her pronouns. If you watched one of the ones for from Robogals for last month, I also did my introduction then with the solar robots. But I'm from St. John's. Some of the things, I'm also a process engineering student. It's just ironic that we're both process engineering students. There's very few of us at MUN, but we're both here. So I started Robogals in 2020, fall. Wow, that seems so long ago now. And again, with what Sam was talking about, all the reasons that Sam says she loves Robogals and wanted to start off Robogals, I 100% agree with. We have an amazing team of gender diverse individuals on our team from mostly all are from engineering at the moment, but we do have a few in pharmacy, a few in math, and different disciplines at MUN. So my last work terms were with Valet, and that's what these pictures here are from. And I was doing, Valet is a mining company, and they at the site I was working at, they were doing mining processes. And so I got to make nickel from basically from the rock and change it to the final product metal. So that's pretty cool. And that's one of the reasons why I liked process engineering and why I chose process engineering is because it's hands-on and I get to make things and explore things and do different hands-on activities. So that's a bit about us.
Yeah, and I'll just like to add in, like Holly said, it's kind of funny how we both are process engineering students, where that's actually the smallest discipline out of all the different types of engineering you can do at MUN. And it may also be a bit of an interesting choice having two chemical engineers running a workshop about cybersecurity, but we can hopefully answer any questions that you might have about engineering in general. And if you want to get into some more deep dive of computer science and computer engineering, next week at our workshop, we're going to have two Robogals there that are both in computer engineering.
Yes.
But
we will be able to answer many of your questions that are surface level or engineering related. More of the in-depth about nuances of coding might be better left for some of our team members. And if you have questions and we don't know the answer, we will definitely send them along. That's one thing that we learned in engineering really fast, is that you don't always have the answer, and it's working as a part of a team and is the most important thing. It's knowing where to get the answer. You don't always need to have the answer on hand.
Yeah, so now we'll go on. We just introduced ourselves. So now if everyone here on the live session wants to go ahead and introduce themselves, we're going to be using Jamboard. And we're going to be using this for the activity that we're doing with encryption later. So this will be just a good way to get familiar with using it. I just sent the link in the chat, so it's easier for you to click into it. So if you go into that Jamboard, the first two slides that I have there are for introducing yourself. So if anyone just wants to write their name and like a fun fact about themselves or draw something about yourselves, I'll be able to see it, and it won't be shared on like the big screen of the recording, but it's just a way to introduce yourselves and learn how to use Jamboard if you haven't before. And also I'll say, if you're going in and using it, there's like a button up top that says clear frame. Don't press that because it'll clear everything that anyone else has written, not just your stuff. I learned that the hard way, so.
So there's two important things with Jamboard is your marker and all your tools are on the left of your screen. And you can, if you don't want to draw, because I know it can be difficult to draw with either a mouse or or a touchpad, you can also just add a sticky note and you can type things that way if you don't want to try to draw your name. If you don't feel comfortable drawing your name, you can draw pictures or anything like that, anything to just try to get yourself familiar with this, because we're going to be using it for our encryption activity later, and we just want to make sure that everyone is familiar with the Jamboard.
Yeah, so if anybody is having trouble getting to it with that link, just let me know.
I'm just going to pop that link into the Clubhouse as well, just in case that's easier. And I'll also say, is it possible for us to leave the Jamboard open for anyone watching as a recording, that they might pop their name or anything in later?
Yeah, I think it should work anytime someone joins with the link.
Great. So I did just pop that into the Clubhouse chat if that's easier for anyone to access. Making sure, yeah. So it'll only be accessible to members and these two wonderful women here. So pop your name into there, and let's see if we like Jamboarding, and perhaps we'll use it more in the future.
Yeah, we'll give it a few minutes to see if everybody who wants to go in and introduce themselves has time to do so. And then we'll move on and get into talking about the real computer science of this lesson.
Perhaps while we're giving it a minute, did you want to just give a shout out to what we'll be touching on next week that might pique anyone's interest?
Yeah, definitely. So this week, what we're doing is like kind of more of a little presentation about some cybersecurity stuff, and then a fun little activity that's kind of like a game to learn about encryption and decryption. But next week will be a bit more of a technical lesson where you'll actually be learning how to code using HTML, which is a coding language. And it's mostly used for coding websites. So we'll actually show you some basics of how to code with HTML, and you'll be able to use it to code your own website with text and pictures and different things, whatever you want to design your website for. So like I said, we'll be having two different girls there next week, and they're both super great computer engineering students, super smart. So they'll be able to answer lots of questions you have about computer engineering, computer science, and coding specifically. But we can answer some of those questions too. So don't feel like you have to hold back any of your questions.
Perfect. Yeah, I know a lot of the students had indicated interest too in learning more coding languages. And certainly we had last month a electrical engineer working at NL Hydro, but one of the things that she said was that in order to get into a STEM mindset, that everyone should really start to learn how to speak, quote unquote, speak in coding languages, because it really is a troubleshooting language, or not that it's one language, because there are so many of them, in fact, but it just helps you build that mindset around STEM.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely a good skill to know. Yeah.
Even as we're process engineers, we do not use code very often in our classes. But in our first year, we did need to learn Python, or I learned Python. Sam, did you do C++?
I learned C++, which
Yes.
is a different language, yeah.
And it really does teach you how to take your time and try. One thing with coding is that sometimes you can have the smallest mistake and the computer is going to get upset about it, because computers aren't very smart, so they can't tell what your spelling mistake means. So you have to learn how to take your time, keep trying, and making sure that you don't get too discouraged with it. And that definitely helps with a bunch of other STEM fields. When you're trying to solve any problem, you have to take your time with it.
Yeah, and it's definitely something I wish I learned before I went to university. Like, it wasn't something that was taught to us in junior high or high school, but I think that it's more so being implemented now into school before university. So that would definitely help you if you're learning it in junior high or high school right now.
Yeah, there's in fact a new program just implemented, I think as of September 2021, in just a handful of high schools, but certainly as a pilot and a rollout, I think you'll see it more and more, that is Python course at the high school level. So if you happen to be in one of those high schools, definitely check out the Python course. It gives you a microcredit that rolls into your post-secondary. But it's another thing to just flag, because if you're in high school right now, your high school does not have that Python program, flag it in your mind, because you're looking at future job competitions where people younger than you, perhaps 3-4 years younger than you, are going to be doing that Python course in high school, and they will have that micro credential when you do not. So teaching yourself Python now will put you on an even playing field with the student that is 3-4 years younger than you. So
yeah, definitely. All right, Holly, I think we can move on to the next slide now. Got a couple people using Jamboard.
Okay, so before we get into some of our actual encryptions, we just wanted to highlight some super cool engineers and computer scientists. So that's one thing. There's a difference between a computer scientist and a engineer, but both of them can do coding, and they can both do very cool things. So while we're both engineers, that does not mean that computer science, we're saying you should do engineering over computer science. It really depends on what you're interested in and what type of field you want to go into, and more so how you want to be working. So these are three different professionals. The first one being Marta Chang, who is the founder of Robogals. So Robogals was founded in Australia. So she's an Australian engineer in mechatronics engineering and computer scientist. So she's both. And she's the founder of Robogals and started her own robotics company where she created bionic arms to assist people with limited hand mobility. So that's pretty cool. So that's one of the things with engineering or computer science. You can always do entrepreneurial type things and start a business. Then Ada Almari is a chemical engineer and inventor and works in medical and pharmacy. So that's kind of the field that me and Sam are in, and uses engineering to better the world and finding ways to reduce disease and illness. So while you might think that that does have more of a chemical background, there definitely would be things where they would have to use coding in those respects, or data entry and different things like that. And then one of the very famous computer scientists, Margaret Hamilton, who was a software engineer and helped write the code to send astronauts to the moon. So all those stacks of books there are handwritten code. So before we had our fancy computers where we could type in all our code, they would handwrite the code before feeding them into the computer. So that's pretty impressive. One of the pioneers in the field of software engineering, for sure. So we have a video now.
Yeah.
Let me know, Sam, if you can hear it, because I'm not sure if I'm doing my sound properly.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Mia Gill-Leffner. I'm majoring in computer science at UC Berkeley, and I work for the Department of Defense, where I try to keep information safe. The internet is an open and public system. We all send and receive information over shared wires and connections. But even though it's an open system, we still exchange a lot of private data. Things like credit card numbers, bank information, passwords, and emails. So how is all this private stuff kept secret? Data of any kind can be kept secret through a process known as encryption, the scrambling or changing of the message to hide the original text. Now, decryption is the process of unscrambling that message to make it readable. This is a simple idea, and people have been doing it for centuries. One of the first well-known methods of encryption was Caesar's cipher, named after Julius Caesar, a Roman general who encrypted his military commands to make sure that if a message was intercepted by enemies, they wouldn't be able to read it. Caesar's cipher is an algorithm that substitutes each letter in the original message with a letter a certain number of steps down the alphabet. If the number is something only the sender and receiver know, then it's called the key. It allows the reader to unlock the secret message. For example, if your original message is hello, then using the Caesar cipher algorithm with a key of 5, the encrypted message would be this. To decrypt the message, the recipient would simply use the key to reverse the process. But there's a big problem with Caesar cipher. Anybody can easily break or crack the encrypted message by trying every possible key. In the English alphabet, there are only 26 letters, which means you'd only need to try at most 26 keys to decrypt the message. Now, trying 26 possible keys isn't very hard. It would take at most an hour to do. So let's make it harder. Instead of shifting every letter by the same amount, let's shift each letter by a different amount. In this example, a 10-digit key shows how many positions each successive letter will be changed to encrypt a longer message. Guessing this key would be really hard. Using 10-digit encryption, there could be 10 billion possible key solutions. Obviously, that's more than any human could ever solve. It would take many centuries. But an average computer today would take just a few seconds to try all 10 billion possibilities. So in a modern world, where the bad guys are armed with computers instead of pencils, how can you encrypt messages so securely that they're too hard to crack? Now, too hard means that there are too many possibilities to compute in a reasonable amount of time. Today's secure communications are encrypted using 256-bit keys. That means a bad guy's computer that intercepts your message would need to try this many possible options until they discover the key and crack the message. Even if you had 100,000 supercomputers and each of them was able to try a million billion keys every second, it would take trillions of trillions of trillions of years to try every option just to crack a single message protected with 256-bit encryption. Of course, computer chips get twice as fast and half the size every year or so. If that pace of exponential progress continues, today's impossible problems will be solvable just a few hundred years in the future, and 256 bits won't be enough to be safe. In fact, we've already had to increase the standard key length to keep up with the speed of computers. The good news is, using a longer key doesn't make encrypting messages much harder, but it exponentially increases the number of guesses that it would take to crack a cipher. When the sender and the receiver share the same key to scramble and unscramble a message, it's called symmetric encryption. With symmetric encryption, like Caesar cipher, the secret key has to be agreed on ahead of time by 2 people in private. So that's great for people, but the internet is open and public, so it's impossible for 2 computers to meet in private to agree on a secret key. Instead, computers use asymmetric keys, a public key that can be exchanged with anybody and a private key that is not shared. The public key is used to encrypt data, and anybody can use it to create a secret message. But the secret can only be decrypted by a computer with access to the private key. How this works is with some math that we won't get into right now. Think of it this way. Imagine that you have a personal mailbox where anybody can deposit mail, but they need a key to do it. Now, you could make many copies of the deposit key and send one to your friend, or even just make it publicly available. Your friend, or even a stranger, can use the public key to access your deposit slot and drop a message in. But only you can open the mailbox with your private key to access all of the secret messages you've received. And you can send a secure message back to your friend by using the public deposit key to their mailbox. This way, people can exchange secure messages without ever needing to agree on a private key. Public key cryptography is the foundation of all secure messaging on the open internet, including security protocols known as SSL and TLS, which protect us when we're browsing the web. Your computer uses this today anytime you see the little lock or the letters HTTPS in your browser's address bar. This means your computer is using public key encryption to exchange data securely with the website you're on. As more and more people get on the internet, More and more private data will be transmitted, and the need to secure that data will be even more important. And as computers become faster and faster, we'll have to develop new ways to make encryption too hard for computers to break. This is what I do with my work, and it's always changing.
All right, so that was a video that I really like. It highlights another cool engineer who works with national intelligence at the Department of Defense, which is a pretty cool job. And she obviously works a lot with keeping information safe through cybersecurity. So hopefully that was informative to you. I think it has a lot of cool information in it. Yeah, and that's just one of the ways, or a few of the ways, that encryption plays a role in computer science and engineering.
So when you're on your computer, you can keep your eye out to see if you ever see the words 256-bit encryption. If you see the little lock next to your Google tab, anyone in the Jamboard right now can see that there's a little lock next to it, which means that it's encrypted, that only people with the link that we sent the link to can open it up. Different things like that. So it's in our everyday life on our computers, and sometimes we just don't notice. I also really like this video for that reason. It shows you what's behind the scenes and all this stuff. So a few of the key words that we just wanted to go over. So encryption is the process of encoding your message. So you're keeping them secret and only authorized people can have them. While decryption is the opposite of that. So it's a process of reversing the encryption that was done and taking the secret messages and making them into an original plain text that you can read. And then the cipher is the key, or how you get from your encryption to your decryption. It's the generic term for a technique or algorithm that performs the encryption. So like we said with the Caesar cipher, that shift over, that would be your cipher. And then cracking your encryption is when you attempt to decode the secret message without knowing the specifics. So if you were trying to, if a hacker was trying to do something, they would try to crack the encryption and get through it without having the proper key to open the encrypted message.
All right, so now we're going to do a fun activity that we call Encryption Adventure, where you're going to get to do some coding and decoding. All right, so the first one that we're going to talk about is the Caesar cipher, which was mentioned in that video. It's a technique for encryption that shifts the alphabet by a certain number of characters to create a new word in the code. And so the amount of letters that you shift it by is called the key. So like in this example here in the middle, is the example uses a key that's a left shift of 3. So you can see each letter get shifted 3 to the left if you lined up the alphabets, meaning that like E goes to B, D goes to A, but then since you run out, it loops the alphabet again, and then like C would go to Z, B would go to Y, etc. So if you just like lined up the alphabet and you shifted them 3 to the left or however many or to whatever direction, then you would get lined up with your new code. So what we're going to do with this activity is, if you go back to the Jamboard, I think on page 3, I have a Caesar cipher code there. So again, I'll remind you not to press the clear frame button, or else it'll clear the code that I wrote down there. But it looks like just a mess of letters, but it actually is a word, or 2 words actually. And I used a key of a left shift of 3, just like in this example. But now remember that if you're decoding it, you'll have to go in the opposite direction. So if I encrypted it with a left shift of 3, you're going to have to decrypt it with a right shift of 3. And at the bottom of the Jamboard there, I have like kind of the key where the letters are lined up. So if you want to look at that and see, it'll make it a bit easier, or you could try it without looking at that and just counting back or counting forward in your head what the key would be. So yeah, and also I recommend, if you want to get like a piece of paper and a pencil to try it out with before typing in the Jamboard or whatever you want. So yeah, Solve the word.
Yeah, maybe we can get everyone to try on their paper first, and then we can see if people are ready for to try to put guesses up, and then you write down your guess, and we can see if everyone has the same thing. Also, Sam, I'm wondering if you could copy and paste it into the chat in case anyone wants to look at it that way.
Sure, let me try to get out of the Zoom. All right, here's my secret message. I've also pasted into the chat.
Just as we're working on this, I had said earlier if the students had asked questions, but I retract that. If you get your cipher in and engage, that's your points for this week, of course. I mean, if you want to ask questions, by all means, but engaging is key. And I know you've already written your names, which is great. We'll have to get some feedback from you afterwards on how you felt about the Jamboard experience. It has a lot of features too that we might be able to dig into. And probably something you might be used to from class as well.
I'll also just put the code up on the board here now in case anyone watching the recording wants to try it and doesn't want to get into the Jamboard.
Just a question for myself as I'm working through this. So I'm taking from looking at the Jamboard now. On the bottom, there's the plain and the cipher. So I'm putting the J, for example, to start with from the plain to the cipher or from the cipher to the plain?
You'd be taking the J is the
J should become G, for example, or J should become M?
J should become M.
Yeah.
I had it backwards myself.
That's a good point. I could have been a bit more clear about that one, which direction it was going in.
So we have a question asking where we should put our answers, and you can either make a sticky note on the Jamboard and type in your answer, or if people are not ready to see the answers yet, maybe we can, I think if you put a sticky note and don't click OK, you can't see what's typed on it. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, I don't think there's too many people here currently on the live participation. So if you have your answer, you can write it in the Jamboard now and we'll see it. But I guess for everybody watching later, I won't reveal the answer. But
Yes, that's
of
a
course,
good thing.
yeah.
We'll put check, Sam, I guess you can put a check mark next to the ones that get it right. Maybe?
Yeah, I'll let you know, but I won't say what it is. But this is just one example. I could come up with a bunch more, and you could even make it harder, kind of like what she was saying in the video. This code, I just shifted everything by the same amount, which is what was originally done. But like Maya, the computer scientist, said in the video, that actually is pretty easy for a computer to crack. So if you wanted to make it harder, you could come up with codes that each letter was shifted by a different amount.
And if you are done and you have your answer, you can also start making your own code if you want. You can type up a code and you can use a different key if you want. Maybe you want to try one that has maybe even just 5 different shifts, and you can make that key up and put it on one of the slides at the end for the cipher and on the Jamboard. And then your friends can try to crack your code. So we have one response.
Yep.
I just have to say, I love the idea of the students putting up their codes for others to crack throughout the week as people watch these as recordings. I know a number of students do, so have fun with leaving some codes for other people. And even if you are watching this as a recording, you can put up a code. You can, at that point, as it's a recording, pause the video if you want, and add a code. I love it.
Yes, so at the end of the Jamboard, there's a bunch of blank slides, and if you keep pressing the arrow, you'll keep adding more blank slides. So if you want, you can type what you want to say in your cipher, and you can give the key, or maybe if you want to be really difficult and not tell everyone what the key is, you can see if they can figure out the key. Or maybe you want to work backwards and you give the plain text as well as the cipher, but you don't give the key, and see if they can figure out the key. There's definitely a bunch of different ways you can do this, and once you get really good at it, you'll be able to identify the letters really quickly.
Yeah, so that's what we'll kind of do at the end. You can make your own codes and stuff, but before we do that, we'll go on to the next slide, and I'll show you one more type of cipher that you could use in making your own code. And this one's kind of more fun. It's called a pigpen cipher. And instead of switching the letters, it's a type of geometric substitution cipher. So you substitute out the letters for shapes, and each shape corresponds to different letters. Like you can see here, this is in the middle is like the key for a pigpen cipher. And it's kind of hard to understand, but like an A would be this like corner, and an E would just be a square, an N would be a square with a dot in the middle, and etc. like that. So here I have an example of the word hello, and it shows how it writes that word in code. So like Holly said, there's a bunch of other slides. If you just keep going to the end of the Jamboard, there's a couple that have pigpen cipher up at the top. So if you want to make your own pigpen cipher codes, and then other people here or people watching the video whenever can go in and try to solve unsolved codes.
I'm trying to do a pigpen cipher here now, and I ran out of room.
But yeah, this one is super fun because you get to draw it, even though I'm pretty bad at drawing this stuff on my computer, on my laptop. But it's a fun code to use. It's a fun cipher, but if you think about it, is it really very secure? Kind of similar to the Caesar cipher, how it wouldn't take very long to crack that once you knew to shift the letters by a certain amount. This one, it probably was pretty secure when it first was developed, but now there's a lot of people out there who just know what the Pigpen cipher is. It's pretty popular now. So I think if anyone saw those letters, it wouldn't take very long for somebody to recognize them as part of the Pigpen cipher. So there's a bunch of kind of codes like that, where as time progresses and we get more technologically advanced, they become almost obsolete because their security kind of gets lost. So I could challenge you to kind of think of what would be a more secure type of cipher to use nowadays. One of them that I read about is called a random situation cipher, which is like, instead of the switching the whole alphabet, you map every letter of the alphabet to a random different letter of the alphabet. So that kind of takes it one step further. Instead of shifting each one by a certain number, you just decide in your head, like A corresponds to F and G corresponds to B, like completely random for each letter, and only you in your head would know that. So it would be kind of more difficult for someone else to crack. But I'm sure there's a bunch of other different ciphers that exist or haven't been invented yet, and maybe you could invent. So try and think about some ways that it could you could create more secure ciphers.
One of my favorites is a book cipher. So this one is not done on the computer, although you probably could do it, is if you have a special book and you know a certain page of a certain book and you have a map of that page. And so it can, without having the book, you can't solve the cipher because you don't have, it will correspond to the fourth letter on the page would be a different letter, and you would shift everything based on a page of a book. So that's one thing that I find really cool, is because you can, two people can have the same book, and if you know it's the right book, you can send different ciphers, coded messages. And once you have the book, you can go through the book and be like, okay, so this letter is this letter is this, and make your message. So you would send like a bunch of numbers, and then get the book and be like, okay, fourth letter, fourth word is A, so that's A, and go like that. But yes, there's a whole bunch of different ones out there, and you can make up your own too. And as long as you and the person who you want to send the message to has the key, then you can send anything encrypted. I don't see anyone else trying out some ciphers on the Jamboard. I did get someone guess my cipher.
See, there's a couple other people going in with them. But yeah, this is like a fun thing you could keep doing throughout the week. You make your own different coded words. You could share them on the Jamboard for everybody else in this group, or even just for your friends or your family if you want to try and give them a challenge. But yeah, that's pretty much all we had to share with you and teach you about encryption. But we can still be sticking around for any more questions you have about the topics that we covered in this presentation, or just about studying engineering in general, because I'm in my 4th year, Holly's in her 3rd year, so we're pretty knowledgeable about doing engineering at university. So if you have any questions, you can let us know. And then also next week, we'll be doing some more text coding, and you can ask more questions about that then too, if you can't think of anything right now.
Yes, I was going to just put up someone's code to decode, but I realized you probably needed the decoding encryption key here.
Yeah.
I do have a question come in through the Clubhouse. So The question from the student is, what courses or programs would you suggest or is needed to be taken if they are interested in a career in encryption and decryption?
Well, in high school, you definitely should do like your third level sciences, specifically physics probably is the most applicable to this kind of work. And then chemistry also would be an asset because you're going to need to kind of do that in university for most STEM degrees initially. But I feel like the main like core courses would be your math. So if you had the option to do like an advanced math course, that I would definitely recommend in high school. And then if there's any type of experience you can get with computers or programming or like the technology courses, if that's offered to you, definitely take that. Once you get into university, you'll be doing more like tailored things to computer science and encryption. Like you'll probably end up having to learn multiple coding languages, which isn't as hard as it sounds, because like once you learn one, it's not too, like they're kind of all overlap, so it's not too similar to learn other ones. You'll have to take courses like digital logic, just like logicking out how different outcomes will be according to different inputs. And I'm sure there's many others. Holly, can you think of any others?
Well, another thing I would say is that with a lot of computer-based jobs and sectors, you don't actually need a post-secondary education for. So that's something that's widely changing right now, which before to get an engineering job, you still need to do an engineering degree because it's a protected profession. But for some other type jobs, if you are interested in them, you can do a lot of the work yourself to learn how to code and learn how to do the different things. So while going to post-secondary education will give you a better foundation, more of a concrete learning, there's definitely ways to go around it in different ways. So if you don't think that that's your thing, you don't think that sitting in a lecture is how you want to learn, you can go to Kona and do more of an applied type thing, or you can do the computer science at MUN, or you can do look at what's online and do a bunch of different things online and build your skills that way. And with all engineering and all computer science, it's all about problem solving. So it doesn't matter if you're solving a computer problem or if you're solving a chemistry problem, whatever you do, or life problem, all these ways we get into the habit of solving problems, we start to learn how to tackle different types of problems. So it's very important to just practice solving problems, whatever way that interests you.
Yeah, like in terms of for jobs, there's a lot of tech startup companies that are happening now. I worked at one called Avalon Holographics, which was really cool. We did a lot of work with software for making holographic displays. There's also Verifin, which is in town in St. John's, and I know they are expanding rapidly, and they'll kind of just hire you if you know how to code. Like you'd be an asset to that kind of team, even if you taught yourself. Obviously, sometimes it's easier to get jobs if you have a diploma or a certification from a college or a university, but really this is kind of special where you can teach yourself skills like coding, and those are actually really highly sought after in jobs right now.
And I will say with Verifin, they do a lot of encryption. They work with banks and different things like that to make sure that cybersecurity with banks, no one's stealing your banking information. So if this is a career you're looking into, maybe that's a company that's based in Newfoundland that you might want to look into.
Absolutely, that's all great advice. And I'll also add into the idea there, if you do go back to the unboxed guide that was sent out, is in the lobby of the clubhouse, and you should have received by email as well. If you go under the post-secondary blurb there on the second page. Cybrary is referenced there and is hyperlinked. Cybrary has micro-credentials. It was recommended by a role model. Actually, it was recommended by Nancy Johnson, who is the Provincial Manager of Security and Audit at, I believe it's with Eastern Health or maybe Provincial Health. The acronym is NLCHI. I just not quite sure what that stands for at the moment. Anyway, Nancy Johnson recommended Cybrary as courses that you can teach yourself. There are some free ones on there, but there are some paid ones as well. So you kind of have to shop around to see what you're really interested in there. But I did want to point that out as a place that even Nancy says that she still uses for her professional development, and she is a manager of the provincial health organization. But the other one that I find really interesting, I didn't know this happened, but you can actually now, this is the first time I've ever heard of this in just researching for this Careers Unboxed. You can do a degree at CNA, degree meaning a 4-year program usually, it's called Bachelor of Applied Information Technology Systems and Network Cybersecurity. But what's even more interesting, because I thought that CNA only had diplomas, so the fact that they have degrees was interesting to me. But even more than that, you can start by doing a diploma in computer systems and networking. That's a 2-year, and apply to just continue on for your next 2 years. So you can start by finishing your 2-year diploma. Maybe that looks like going out and getting a junior analyst position in cybersecurity. And then after getting 2 years experience, we'll say in that, going, hey, I'd really like to upgrade that diploma into a degree, go back to CNA and do 2 more years, finish with a second certificate, or like you now have both a diploma and a degree, and get back into the workforce again, which is a really interesting way to go about getting your post-secondary programs. I thought it was anyway.
I definitely agree. So one thing that I will tell anyone who's looking into going into post-secondary degree, anyone in high school at the moment or thinking about it in the future, is that university is not the only path to get to where you want. It is a great path, but some people, the Kona option is a lot more their style. And so to really don't limit yourself, look at what's out there, because again, yes, as Trina just pointed out, it is a very fast moving world out there in computer and technology. So there's many, many ways to get your foot in the door. So you can definitely go in and find different pathways to get to this field.
Awesome. Well, with that, I'm having a lot of fun just decoding the other messages here. But with that, we've reached a full hour. So did either of you have any final advice or anything, or anything that you wanted to bring up before we clue up today?
Just responding to a question in the chat. Second.
I didn't have anything else. So we do have our social media, as I just put up on the board. And if anyone has any questions or is thinking about going into university and going into engineering and wants to talk to someone in engineering, they can definitely send us a message on any of our social medias or through our email. And we would, if we can't answer the question, again, we'll put you in contact with someone who can answer your question. And yeah, I just encourage everyone to keep trying and solving problems. That's the biggest thing. You just have to try and keep trying. And so that's if anything you take out of this is that anything you do with coding or anything you do with encryption, it's all about just trying to find the right way to go about it, whether that's finding the right key or looking at it a different way. So just always keep trying and you'll definitely be able to improve in anything you set your mind to.
That's awesome. And just a final question from me for the students that are in grade 12, we'll say, and heading to Memorial in the fall. Robogals quite open to new members.
Yes.
Yes, we will be
definitely.
hiring in the fall. So how engineering works is we switch between school and work. So I'm currently in school while Sam is currently on a work term. So the fall I'll also be in school. So I will be anyone who's, if you're going into engineering, you might see me around the building. I don't go over to the other side of the campus much, but that might change next term. But yes, if anyone sees me in the hall and is at Mon and like wants to ask questions, go right ahead. And if you want to get involved in Robogals, we will be posting things on our social medias about hiring new members and different things like that.
Yeah, and you don't have to be in engineering, any type of
No.
STEM degree. I definitely would recommend getting involved with Robogals. It's awesome.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so very much. And we'll see you and or some other members, if I recall correctly, next week. I mean, certainly next week. I just don't know off the top who it is for our HTML coding session. So this has been awesome. Really enjoyed it. And I look forward to working with you more.
Yes,
Awesome.
definitely.
Thank you
We
so
enjoyed
much for
this.
having
Yes.
us.
Have a great Monday, everyone.
Bye.